We're joined now by another former Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta, who also served as CIA Director, White House Chief of Staff, and as OMB Director. He now serves as the co-founder of the Panetta Institute for Public Policy. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I just had Secretary Hagel on, and I want to be fair and ask you both kind of the exact same question. What gives you cause for optimism or cause for concern as you kind of assess the world today?
I think there's a lot of danger points in the world that we're facing, a lot of flashpoints, probably more than what we saw since World War II. If you look at the fact that we're continuing to confront terrorism in the world, if you look at the fact that there are failed states in the Middle East which breed terrorism, if you look at China and the threat that China represents to the United States and to the world, Russia, a new era of the Cold War, North Korea expanding its nuclear weapons stockpile, and Iran, which is trying to develop a nuclear weapon, and then look at cyber and the cyber attacks that have taken place across the world. There are a lot of danger points that I worry about, and the question is whether or not the United States can provide the world leadership, working with our allies, to be able to confront those danger points. I think I'm optimistic if we can develop those kinds of alliances that can work with us in order to confront all of these danger points that I just described.
Mr. Secretary, you know, sometimes politics kind of likes to dumb things down to just simple choices. I'm an isolationist or I'm an interventionist. For people who want to be open-minded to either, but they just want the wisdom to know which is appropriate when, what's kind of a good rule or a good test to evaluate whether the United States should get involved in something or should not?
Well, I always felt that my responsibility, both as Director of the CIA and Secretary of Defense, was to protect the American people and to protect our national security. And I think that's kind of the critical formula that is essential as we deal with these challenges, which is there a threat out there that could impact on our national security? And therefore, what steps should we take in order to make sure that we protect our national security and protect the American people? I think that we do need to be a world leader. I think it is important to reach out in a global world and try to be able to build the kind of relationship with other countries that can provide strength through alliances. I think that China and Russia, the one thing they hate the most is alliances, and that's probably our greatest strength. But in doing that, we are also protecting our national interests, protecting our country. I mean, America needs to be strong. There's no question about it. We need to be strong economically. We need to be strong morally. We need to be strong in terms of our values. But the important thing is we also need to take our values and show the rest of the world what it means to be a democracy and what it means to respect our freedoms.
Mr. Secretary, you and I did not serve together. You had gone on to bigger and better things by the time I got to the House, but I did see you, and I saw you in the member gym, and you could not tell whether you were speaking to Republicans or Democrats because you had the same optimism, and you were jovial no matter who you were talking to. We're not there anymore. I'm not there anymore. It doesn't look like that anymore. So, you know, among our strengths, it used to be kind of a political cohesion when we needed one. How concerned are you with the state of politics in the body that we used to serve in?
Well, we just talked about threats to our national security. And I think one of the worst threats to our national security is the dysfunction that we see in Washington in terms of the inability of both parties to be willing to work together and try to resolve the issues that face our nation. I've often said in my 50 years of public life that I've seen Washington at its best and Washington at its worst. I've seen Washington work. That's the good news. I've seen Republicans and Democrats willing to work together on issues. Do we have our political differences? Of course. But there was a will to confront major issues and work together. Today, there is a deep partisanship, an anger, frustration between the parties that makes both sides unable to try to find that common ground that is essential if we're going to govern. So I worry about that, because I think if we're going to have a strong democracy, we absolutely have to get back to governing.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your service to our country in all the various ways that it manifests itself, and I hope that you and your family have had a wonderful Christmas and have a wonderful 2022, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Trey, and I wish you and your family happy holidays and a happy new year.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.